United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I will now take the roll call. Holly Bem?
Here.
David Blumey?
Here.
Aaron Levitt-Smith?
Here.
Craig McCormack is excused, absent. Alan Needham is excused and absent. William Rice, present. Elizabeth Burt, she also is excused and absent. Richard Cortez.
Here.
Present. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Rich, I'd like to promote you to a full member tonight.
Very good.
Okay, that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members. We do have a quorum if we need to conduct any business, but I do not expect we have to.
Bill, can I just make a comment? This would have been Elizabeth Burt's last meeting,
Yeah.
so I just wanted to go on record as saying I appreciated serving with her, and she was extremely intelligent and thorough, and I appreciate the work that she did for the commission, so I just want to go on record, because I know she won't be at the next meeting, since
Right.
that's the
Right.
beginning
Yep,
of the new
I
I
cycle.
agree.
concur. She was
Yeah.
very diligent, very
She was
careful.
definitely an asset to the commission.
Definitely.
Especially during the POCD, when she got seated a lot,
Yeah.
when people missed, so she was extremely integral in that.
Good, thanks for bringing that up, Aaron. That was
Yeah, thank you.
good comment.
Thank you.
Okay, next, approval of the minutes of October 22nd. In the absence of the secretary, I will run through the meeting minutes with us. Okay. Any comments on page 1? Any comments on page 2? Any comments? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the October 22nd, 2019 meeting.
So moved.
Aaron moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Rich. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor of accepting the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. And
One abstain because I wasn't at the meeting.
David Blumey abstained. Thank you. The motion passes. Minutes are approved. Okay. New business. So, Mr. Glidden, do we have any new applications?
New applications.
Do we have any new referrals?
Nothing for tonight.
Okay, then we'll move on to general commission business. Do we have any correspondence?
Any correspondence for this evening?
Okay, the next item, something I asked to have put on the agenda a couple meetings ago. I think the town manager, is the town manager convening this committee or?
Board of Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen, okay. To look into potential ordinances or some type of rules to govern short-term rentals in Simsbury. Now, I was at the, I think it was the EDC meeting last week, was it last week, week before, whenever it was, and I saw the composition of the working group did not specifically include a member of the Planning Commission, okay? If anyone has a strong desire to be on this little subcommittee, I think we could probably arrange to have you seated. Does anyone have a strong
Can you tell me a little more
desire?
about?
Yeah, I'd like to know what it's about.
Regulating Airbnb and similar uses that are short-term rentals that offer like rental agreements via internet service. Really boils down to it's properties that are rented or leased for less than 30 days. And the zoning commission's kind of been tackling this issue, and through a lot of work by the commission, they've determined that that, in their opinion, the most appropriate way to regulate this use is via an ordinance, not via a zoning regulation. So they made the recommendation to the Board of Selectmen that an ordinance be developed to address some of these. It's a lot of like neighborhood issues, quality of life issues that certain areas in town are dealing with.
So this would be a short-term commitment until there's drafted, it's something.
The zoning actually already kind of gave like an outline of, here's some ideas what we suggest you look into putting into an ordinance. So there's a lot of work that's been done by the zoning commission. It's more of a just get the agreement on the basically you have the structure, fill up the rest of the structure and some of the details on how this thing will work.
And how often
The
are
short term is not because it's interim, but because it's dealing with Airbnb short-term rentals.
No, I get that, but,
How long would the
what's the commitment? Yeah, is it every week, is it every other week? I mean,
It'd probably be a few meetings. I mean, the working group, for example, for the water shortage ordinance, that group was meeting once every 3 weeks, and the time was changing based on availability of the members of the working group. So,
Is there a high incidence of Airbnb type rental that it's posing some sort of problem that we need to legislate on?
we only have 17 properties right now in town that are, just the zoning commission got their earful regarding one particular property. So,
And other towns are dealing with it on large scale, and it'll grow here.
Okay.
Anyone have an interest?
I'm sort of interested. I'm kind of like Aaron. I'm a little nervous about what the commitment is because my schedule's a little unpredictable.
one thing you could say is that if you're interested in serving on the board, maybe that you can't physically attend meetings, but you could call in. We could arrange for you to call
yeah.
into a meeting.
So it's evenings anyway, so that should be possible.
Yeah.
Okay, I am interested. And it looks like Aaron is too.
no, go ahead.
Oh,
No,
you're
no,
shaking
No,
your
I was
head.
like, go ahead.
Oh, you're like, yeah.
Okay, Mike, so what would be the best way, should I send a note to Eric, or?
Yeah, let's probably just send it through Eric and say that you'd like, that a member of the commission has expressed interest in serving on the working group. Holly will serve on behalf of the commission. Can you please add her to the working group?
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, excellent, thank you, Holly. Very good. Next, we have a special presentation on sustainable Connecticut, and Rich, on the agenda, it says silver status, is that what does Simsbury have now?
So we achieved silver status on the first try,
Wow.
which is pretty big given that we had a very short, we didn't have a whole year to work on it. Like by the time I was contacted and we got me on the group, it was like late May, June, and we did the whole thing submitted by the end of August. And we got enough points to make silver on our first time out.
Right.
That's amazing.
I think, the brief summary you gave us a few weeks ago really piqued our interest, and you volunteered to give a little more detail.
Yeah, so there are, on the left there, I'll read them because you can't see them, otherwise I'd make you look at it. So making silver in 2019, it was Coventry, Guilford, Mansfield, Middletown, New Haven, Simsbury, South Windsor, Vernon, and Wyndham. And it's a short list compared to the other list. We fully expected to fall into the bronze list, then have some stuff to work on for the following year and maybe make it up to silver in a couple of years. But we happened to make it the first time around. Let me talk a little bit more about this. So Sustainable Connecticut, you can just Google that. As long as you put CT in capital letters, it'll come up. Otherwise, it reads it as court. Right. So if you put in Sustainable CT, this will come up. And you can go into the About tab there. And it tells you, I'll read you the mission just real quick. To provide municipalities with a menu of coordinated voluntary actions to continually become more sustainable, to provide resources and tools to assist municipalities in implementing sustainability actions and advancing their programs for the benefit of all residents, and to certify and recognize municipalities for their ongoing sustainability achievements. So it's a statewide effort to get everybody on the same page, working for the same goal, and really to enhance each single town and make life better for everybody in a lot of different ways that are possible. So you can go through this website and really dig into everything. I'm gonna talk about the different action categories that we have to deal with for this process. So the first is thriving local economies. So you're supporting local businesses, increasing local jobs, revenues, the whole bit there. Well-stewarded land and natural resources, which is something that we talk about all the time with the POCD. And actually, even thriving local economies, we talk about with the POCD as well. Vibrant and creative cultural ecosystems, we'll leave that to Culture, Parks, and Rec. That's a lot of stuff that's outside of our purview, but we didn't get a lot. I'll show you where we got all the points in a minute.
Okay.
Well, the PAC should
Yeah.
give us quite a few points.
I'll show you what the point,
Artistic.
what the deal is later. So then we've got dynamic and resilient planning, which is
Yes.
something that we have a hook into there and can affect. Clean and diverse transportation systems and choices. It's everything from the roads to pedestrian ways to the bike path, everything. We did pretty well with that. Efficient physical infrastructure and operations. It's about getting the town into better energy usage. One of the big points here was having the lamps switched to LED
Yep.
down Hop Meadow here. That got us quite a few points there.
How about the electric plug in that, like those are, right here for the electric car?
I'm not sure how that played, but we'll look at the
But it did,
items in a minute, and maybe
okay.
it did. Because I didn't work on the whole thing, so we all had little pieces to work on, and then we put it all together. Strategic and inclusive public services. This is about being transparent in the community, getting the community involved in the decisions the town makes for different quality of life issues, all those sorts of things. And then healthy housing options, which is also something that we can have our hooks into in one way or another. And it's about affordability, it's about having self-sustaining areas, renewable energy, all those things that we can incorporate into housing now with all the new techniques that exist. So those are the 8 points that we had to deal with for the program. So what I did was I put together a,
Rich, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
can you achieve gold status? Or-
there is no gold status yet. They haven't gotten that far. The program's not really very old, so
Oh,
they've
okay.
had bronze for a little while, and they've had silver for a couple of years, and they haven't even developed gold yet.
Okay, so silver's as high as you can get at this
Yes.
point. Okay,
Yeah. And we assume that in the next couple of years, they'll be doing the gold.
do we have to keep doing this to keep the silver status? Like, do you have to keep applying for it every year?
Yes, so every your status is for 3 years,
Okay,
and you start working on the next submission now, but in the third year, you begin the process of resubmitting another submission.
okay.
And then they'll reevaluate, and then they'll put you in one of the categories
Okay.
again. So if you want to stay silver, you got to earn it. It's not like you get it, and it's not the good housekeeping seal of approval.
Okay.
You pay your money, and then you have it forever. You have to earn it every time you apply.
Okay. And can the things that got us certified this time certify it next time, or is it new initiatives?
It's mostly new initiatives. There are certain look-back periods.
Oh, okay,
So you can't keep using the same
Same
thing
thing,
over and
okay.
over again. They don't want, that wouldn't make a benefit to anyone if we
Right.
just kept doing that. So I'm going to expand this a bit so you can see it, hopefully.
Rich, is this like a self-assessment?
Yes, you submit, you get all your material, you submit it in, and then when on the date, there's a cutoff, and you actually click submit on your app, it sends everything to them, documents, whatever color paragraphs you've written to send in. They evaluate it, they comment on it back to you, and then you either have to expand on it or realize you're not going to get any points for it this time.
Well, so
So-
someone's auditing,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, they're looking at it.
Someone, who is the they?
It's the people at Sustainability Connecticut, and I can show you their pictures in a minute if you like,
Okay.
when we're done with this part. So under the first tab of thriving local economies, they talk about redevelopment of brownfield sites. We don't have any, so we didn't even get into that. So there's a whole section we couldn't get into.
What are brownfield sites?
They're contaminated sites that you can
Oh,
clean
I
up
see.
and then
Okay.
put back into community use.
But we don't have, okay, so
We currently do not have any.
we should have gotten points for that.
We only have a Superfund site.
Right.
Which one?
That's different.
That's super
It's a
fun.
whole different animal.
Yeah, that's not something the town can deal with all by itself. Brownfield sites are things that we can deal
Okay.
with, where you can get a phase 1, phase 2
Yep.
environmental done on them and figure out how you can clean them up.
Okay.
So we got no points for this. There's no positive points for, hey, you already do this kind of thing, or you didn't screw up your environment, so
Exactly,
you're
there
good.
should have been something.
So on the left here, I've marked in yellow the things that we could possibly do that we may be tangentially related to or be able to actually do ourselves. But this would be a townwide thing, sustainable purchasing. I've been talking with Tom Roy, and we're talking about how maybe we can get all the departments involved in that. And they tell you what you need to do, so you need resolutions, you need ordinances, you have to adopt a sustainable purchasing policy kind of thing. And it requires training for the different people that are going to be involved in it. So this is a future potential. We got no points in this at all because we don't do that in town. Provide resources and support to local businesses. That's something that we can probably do more of in some part in looking at how we want to develop the town more. We can put programs together, supporting small businesses, doing some education with them. This says invite businesses to participate in 3 events to build local community recognition. Identify, disseminate a toolkit for resiliency for pre-disaster business preparedness and post-disaster. So those are things that we all work on in one way or another. We actually do work on because we talk about what happens in certain watershed areas and what we want to develop there and not develop there kind of thing. So it's something for us to consider. Another one was promote sustainable workforce development. I don't know how much of an effect we can have on this, but it's more like making sure that people are trained properly to be able to get a job if they're underemployed or unemployed. You know, in light of what businesses may be in town that need workers, right? So trying to do the best you can with that. Participate in promoting the CPACE program.
Sorry, just something came to mind. Does it have to be something the town is doing, or can it be like Main Street Partnership or the
So Main Street
Chamber of
Partnership is a
Commerce?
quasi-town, it's partially funded by the town, so that would totally apply. And I think maybe we left it off of this submission so we could use it on the next submission, but yeah, something like that that's quasi-governmental, we can always include.
And you're aware the library has a significant number of programs.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
But we're not allowed to get any credit for supporting the Chamber of Commerce activities? Because it's not governmental?
No, that's not true, because
Oh,
they
we
do
get
also
that.
allow private-public partnership as well. It all depends on what it
They
is
do
and
a
how it
lot,
fits into the
yeah.
program that they are putting out here.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
There's a
everything,
lot of, give small businesses a chance to shine. Yeah. and the
Yes.
other one.
so that was CPACE is fairly straightforward. Provide watershed education, that's sort of out of our bailiwick, so I didn't mark that one, but, so a lot of people don't understand watershed issues, so it's probably a good
Right.
idea that maybe the Inland Wetlands Commission or something like that might do a program like this if they're contacted.
You know that 2
1, 2, there's a class at Henry James that actually does stream monitoring.
Right, so that's
Yeah,
good
we
to
got-
know, so for
we got
next time
connected.
around.
We found this out through our state water permit. Our MS4 stormwater permit, we have to do exactly some of the same of these activities that's outlined there. So yeah, we should probably connect on that.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'm gonna see if Tom can't pass this spreadsheet around to all the different areas so they can identify things that each department can affect or have something on. And then we can, now that we have more time, we can get together at appropriate
Yeah, and
intervals and
actually
start really developing the stuff, which is
populating.
what we didn't have last time. It was just kind of a melee to try to get all the info.
Rich, what's CPACE?
There's always one in the crowd.
Okay, I just asked somebody, I won't out him, Bill. No, and he didn't know either.
Working with CT Green Bank, so CPACE is gonna be about, green development, probably, loans for, the panels on your home, you know, those kinds
Solar
of things
panel,
that, yeah,
that kind of thing,
that
okay.
they finance. I can get a better answer for you, I just
No,
didn't.
that's okay, I was just curious.
Is it like a Connecticut state thing?
Yes,
CPACE Connecticut,
CPACE, I believe,
administered by the Connecticut Green Bank, offers 100%
Yeah.
financing for a wide range of energy.
Commercial property assessment, clean energy.
yeah.
There it is, CPACE.
Now, with the solar farm, did that go into this one?
No, because the community gets no benefit from that solar farm. That solar farm, all of that energy gets sold to Massachusetts, I think, or to an electric
To an
company in
electric
Mass.
company? Oh, I see, so that's,
It's sold to the overall coordinating body
Yes,
that includes Massachusetts and Connecticut.
Connecticut.
right. For us to get credit for it, it would be something that the energy comes to the town and it gets used here.
Gotcha, okay.
Then it
You
would
could
be
just
part of our
rewire
system.
something, right?
What was that?
There would be a lot of angry people.
That's your job, get out there.
Gotta get some big conductors. Wire it.
So then we had
Part
watershed.
the solar farm.
So a watershed management plan might fall within our purview at some point when we're doing POCD and we see the next most recent map on where the water is and what's happening and where the overflows are going. So something to keep in mind that we could affect in the future.
The Wild and Scenic Committee will have to actually develop a management plan for the Farmington River.
That's good because there's another section in this that deals with wildlife and I'd like to get them
But
involved.
it may actually, they may overlap with your watershed management plan too.
That would be good. Let's
So I'm just sorry to keep interrupting and.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
No,
It's all right. Engage in watershed protection and restoration, again, like you said, the Wildlife Commission. Develop an open space plan. We've never had that topic come up, have we? So it's about managing our open space. Now, this thing relies in some portion on increasing preserved open space in your community. We probably won't be doing that, but we probably do have an inventory that we can take advantage of, and we can probably do something about managing that open space and making it available for public use in appropriate ways, which is something that I know we all do already right now. That wasn't, I don't believe that was part of this. Hold on one sec. Let me see what we had, if any points. We got about 20 points out of that section, but there's more that we can do. So it's only projects up to 10 years before the submission. Yeah, for all three. So we probably used up about everything we had. And that was list of resources prioritized for protection, a copy of the open space preservation plan, and a copy of the completed inventory. So those are fairly easy to get points on. So now it's where we take it from here. What are we going to do next with those plans and those ideas that we were able to get points for there?
Rich, we do have the Open Space Committee.
Yes,
Comprised of, chairman of planning, zoning, who else is on there?
Conservation.
Conservation, on that, right? And then there's, Helen is probably what she is,
Is it a member at large?
member at large, yeah.
And
Yes, do.
they're also updating the open
Susan.
space and parks
Yeah,
master
Susan.
plan right now.
Are they in the middle of it, or are they towards the
Yes.
They're in
end?
the middle of it.
So we
Okay,
asked
so I'll have somebody reach out to them, because that would be
That would give
fairly,
you your points on that.
you-
yeah.
Okay.
And
But
stewardship.
that would get you above that, just doing the inventory, which the Conservation Commission did back in 2016.
If I can get them to include some of these other points that are here, that also takes us, I don't have to submit that until the end of the third year, so then we'll get credit going forward.
Right,
That gives
right.
me a 6-year span before I have to worry about looking at it again.
Rich, too, I think the fact that there's an old growth forest designation now in town, I'm wondering if that can be used for this.
Yes, maybe no, because we're doing no management on it. It's being left to,
Natural
it,
state.
yeah, I want to say
But it's-
fallow, but it just takes care of itself.
Okay.
So
Isn't
I,
that a plan?
Belden Forest.
Belden Forest,
Yeah, I know.
It-
I think,
Oh,
I agree, I think it should be.
that's a plan.
Yes.
so natural resource and wildlife inventory is another piece of this. I don't know how you inventory wildlife, but I'll watch somebody try.
Got a fox down the road. I'd
Yeah.
like to throw him on the
We've got
census.
plenty of wildlife. I'm counting deer every day, so we'll get with that group as well and see what they can contribute to this.
Some wildlife cameras.
Yeah. We did not get any points on this time around, so that's something, we left a lot of points on the table knowingly that we were going to try to go for silver the next time, but we're already there, so now it's just about taking those points and keeping the silver.
Yep.
We have a drought policy, we got points for all of that, but I think we can go a lot further. Basically, we showed them a policy, we didn't show them much more than that. This also gets into when you're doing municipal construction, which might involve the Public Building Committee, about what kind of fixtures you're putting in, low water usage fixtures, no water usage fixtures. There's a lot of different alternatives we have now that we didn't have even just 10 years ago. So building that into how PBC works might actually give us more points in this area in the future. Education on water conservation. We didn't do anything on that this time around. Implement low-impact development. I don't know if that's something that we're going to consider in the future in our POCD.
I think it's in there.
Is it? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
well, things to consider, you know.
Yes.
is-
I think this requires slightly higher development than what we have in there, but we can take a look at that and see when the time comes, if there's anything that we can add in there that doesn't make any too much of a restriction more than what we already have.
Okay.
As long as it makes sense, right? We don't want to start constraining people too much. Manage the woodlands and forests. Some we have managed, some we have not managed. So we just have to get
Right, and
inventory.
the Open Space Committee is trying to come up with a, what do we call it? Open Space
Stewardship
Stewardship Policy.
Excellent. So those are points we can drag in next time around.
Actually, you already have the Forestry Commission established. That's the Conservation Commission, according to the town charter.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good to know.
The points
We're
are just
going to sit
rolling
down
in.
together later.
I
Yeah.
keep getting you points.
We're gonna be platinum.
Yeah, I was about to say, you're rare earth any day now.
I'm just gonna keep my mouth, no.
Yeah. And I want to try to roll through these a little bit quickly, because there's 9 categories, and I don't want to
Okay,
bore you
sorry.
guys. It's already 7:30. So invasive species education and management, does that fall to anybody now?
Conservation, and you really should talk to Marjorie Winters. She is the guru of invasive species and management. I mean,
Okay.
the chairman could attest to that.
So, and I must say that the Simsbury Land Trust has educated me quite a bit.
She's the
on-
president of the Simsbury Land Trust.
Oh, there you go. All
There
right,
you go.
that-
All right.
There you go.
So good. There's more points we can get later. So there's all the education and management pieces that are here. A lot of times this requires you to do some kind of policies. Every once in a while, it'll say a regulation or a ordinance. Mostly, it's about the town management setting up some sort of a committee to have an oversight over things and have some, at least guidelines on how to deal with things, so. Implement green grounds and maintenance programs, so that's something that I can't imagine the town hasn't already been looking at that. I mean, we operate a golf course, so they're probably trying to do it in the most efficient, least impactful way.
They have to for their state water diversion permit for the.
There you go.
irrigation. So they-
Tom Roy ought to know that.
Well, it's Parks and Rec, it's not.
Yeah,
his-
that's true.
It's not his kingdom.
Right, so we have some points there. Our third point is vibrant and creative cultural ecosystems. So we got 0 points on this whole section, except for the tourism piece of it, because we do have a website. But we do not do the poet laureate stuff or any of those things. Establish a poet laureate, include arts and culture and municipal marketing.
Bernie McWoken.
What'd you
Oh,
say?
don't know it.
Nominate me.
But I mean, for heaven's sake,
No,
we
I think he's on
actively
the, I
support the
think he's out.
PAC.
He's out
Yes,
now.
we had one, but we didn't have one at the time of submission, so you,
You can't say, yeah.
Even though the Hartford Symphony Orchestra plays on city land, that doesn't
so
get
they
us.
play on city land. Is that open to the whole public to come for free?
Yeah, because all you have to do is sit outside and get an ice cream cone. and
Yeah, it doesn't work. They're looking for more
This one's
pointed,
scoped out.
yeah. So they, establish a percent for art, public art program, cost spent on art, municipality can adjust percent requirement in excess of 1%. It's, establish a cultural office or arts and culture department. We have the rec department, but I'm not sure that they actually go off into any of these things that this section talks about. But we have an opportunity to pick up points next time around.
I like an artist in residence. We have some artists in town.
We have quite a few.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
In creative culture,
these
we
things
have
are a possibility.
makers workshops
Yeah.
and celebrations and,
So I don't think we're here
Yeah.
to
okay.
Right.
critique what the work group has done.
They got silver designation.
yeah.
It's
we got silver without all of
So
this.
then,
So
so then
we-
maybe we should just shoot through to the stuff you highlighted. Otherwise, we'll be examining it all night.
Yeah, no. So, but you should see what's on here. Develop a creative placemaking. I'm not sure what placemaking means. I haven't investigated that, and I didn't work on that, but I can get back to you. You know?
Brett, this- the center code, the Hartford form-based code, that would all fall under that category.
Okay.
Oh.
You do have
Let's
those.
make- Okay.
So,
Michael really knows this stuff.
have an arts and culture program for the kids.
Usually it's the planning department.
For youth, I shouldn't say kids, because they're young adults.
Youth.
By that,
Youths.
yeah, youths. So dynamic and resilient planning, this is where sort of we come into it. We got some points in this area.
Oh, yeah.
So integrate sustainability. I think they would like to see the sustainability portion of the POCD a little more developed, where it's kind of like 2 pages total. It doesn't really branch out
There's
into
something
very
else
many
that we do for the
specifics.
state, right?
So if you wanted to do that, let's say expand that chapter, we do that next year. Next year would be our date for our POCD.
Yeah.
It'll buy us a few more years before we do a whole new update. So just food for thought when these little sort of things, which are, I think Rich is right, low-hanging fruit, how to address it.
Yeah, all right, so yeah, we can talk about that when the time comes. These aren't really difficult to do. At least 4 hazard mitigation plan goals, incorporate 3 sustainability concepts. So these are easy to expand on because the basis is already there. We did get some points for that. For this section, we got 40 points. We got the maximum points for actions. And we got 40 additional points for a separate group of actions that we had related to land use zoning regulations, implementing guidance, all those sorts of things. So we did well in this area, but there was still a lot of stuff we could have added on to it. Adapt the permitting process to promote sustainable development. And sustainable development, the way that they talk about it in the Sustainable CT plan, which is a little bit different than the way we talk about it. But when the time comes, I'll present the differences to you, and you can see how you can build that in. I don't think it's going to be a heavy lift. It'll be a little different than what you're used to thinking about, though. Develop agricultural friendly practices. We do have quite a few things going on here. Probably a couple, we had a food safety policy at one point where, and I don't know if that's still in effect or if it went out, but where certain plots of town land would be available for farmers if we started having any kind of food shortages, and we could have them farm the land for the upcoming season. So it's all sorts of things that we can do that way that won't really put anybody out. It's just taking a field that's just sitting there for years and can be used to help us make sure we have enough food. Establishing.
That's actually something I worry about a lot. Not a lot, but somewhat. Is it really realistic to say that a town of 27,000 people are going to meet their food needs with what land we have around here?
No.
No.
But you plant one thing, you plant a different thing, you plant something else. If we get everybody, a large number of people planting a bunch of things in their yard who know how to raise plants, and you get a couple of farmers to get in there on a couple of large fields, we can probably get by in a real food shortage.
You've
It's a
done the
supplemental
analysis?
item.
You've seen that?
The analysis has actually already been done. It was done a few years ago, and I
Okay,
think it was
all right.
done,
Oh, I'd love to see that.
when-
Yeah, that's
when-
cool.
There's enough zucchini grown in this town.
yeah, no more
Okay.
zucchini. I'd
Yeah,
put a
but
ban on
only
zucchini,
lasts a
but
short amount of time.
we can do a lot of other
Famine can
vegetables.
last a long time.
And remember that these solutions aren't instant.
Okay, yeah,
A
interesting.
crop takes, depending on the crop, 6 to 8 months to get it in the ground and back out of the ground. So it's not instant, but there are things that we can do.
Well, I'd love to work on any of that kind of work that you do. I always think our farmers need all the help they can get.
They know what to
God
do.
bless them.
Assess climate vulnerability, we didn't do anything on that. We do have some water management issues that we did attack in the POCD, and, places where we don't want people to develop because there's constant floods in those areas. But I think they needed a slightly more in-depth assessment and policy on what we're going to do going forward.
I think we'll all be doing climate assessment.
Oh, yeah. Inventory and assess historic resources. We actually have an inventory. We don't have a real assessment of their state, and we don't have a real policy or program on how to preserve those historic resources. That wasn't on the list. There was no reference to that, so we couldn't use it for points, except to say we had an inventory. So I think maybe we got 5 points for that, but had we gone the full length of it, we might have gotten 10 to 15 points. Streamline solar permitting. I don't know that that's feasible for us, but it's something to consider. I don't know about streamlining it, but solar permitting certainly has a place in our town. But how and where we're going to do it is a different question. Is it just going to be on rooftops? Are we going to let somebody take a whole field and put them in there because it's their field and that's what they want to do? We saw what problems we had across town with that. So I don't know how feasible it is, but it's at least something we can talk about. Planning for long-term recovery kind of speaks for itself. We have long-term plans. I'm not sure we have long-term recovery plans. Anything come to mind with you, Mike? Yeah. So that's something we could probably tackle. Clean and diverse transportation system and choices. Implement complete streets. We've done quite a few of the things in here, insofar as looking at the curbs, replacing some curbs, putting them on the list, looking at sidewalks and putting those on the list for the ones that need to be redone because they're not level anymore, making sure that people in all different, people in wheelchairs, people who have trouble walking can actually get from one side of the street to the other without having to trip at any point in the way. So a lot of that is built into this particular item. So we got good points for it, but we can get a lot more points.
That came up at the senior forum. Remember the woman who was talking about her dad, and just that, how do you get in things that you wouldn't have thought about unless you were in a wheelchair. So she was saying around town, it's still an issue.
Yes, right.
They've been making a lot of improvement.
No, they have, and
They have,
Tom's.
but she was, she just highlighted that at the.
We have a long list, I think it's 120 different items that they need to go out and take care of. Some of them being an entire sidewalk, some of them just being a curb cut.
Yeah, curb cut,
Others
right.
being replacing the corner so that it's got the granite dips down so that a wheelchair can get by.
Yep.
So those are all under consideration. There is a plan to fix a lot of those. But it can't be done in 1 year. It's
Right.
expensive,
Yeah.
so it's on a plan to get a certain amount of them done every year. Encourage smart commuting. That's something that we can help with, whether it be by identifying places where people can park if they wanna take public transportation, or improving the pathway between Simsbury and Bloomfield, which was on the list somewhere, right? We were gonna join up paths
Yep.
for the biking path at some point. So all those sort of things kinda,
We're joined in Terriffill right now. It's just you can't get from Terriffill to
The
the
rest
center.
of,
right, yes,
It's that one, it's two legs that we have to connect, which
okay.
we're dealing with those environmental hurdles with those two legs. I'll just
Gotcha.
leave it at that.
Mike, not the one over the mountain, which I'd heard that the Wittenberry Land Trust is looking into.
No, this is up off of 187.
Yeah, this is just in town.
This is,
what
it's
he's
built.
talking about.
There's
It's built.
a,
It gets you to Main Street in,
Some initiative that's been on for a few years, the Wittenberry Land Trust is pursuing for bicycle access over that notch, the low point, that used to be the main road to Windsor, that's out Wittenberry Drive.
Does that go into like Wilcox Park?
Yes, but it has
Bloomfield?
sort of a little no man's, it's got about, just a couple hundred yards where it just disappears into the wilderness, but, then you could just bike over the mountain.
So then we have support zero emission vehicle deployment. So we may have, this is where we might have gotten some points for the 2 charging stations. But
Yeah.
this more talks about municipally using zero emission vehicles. So it's changing over the fleet, which is a long-term thing. So on 544, you see host 1 electric vehicle charging station. We got that, but now we're really talking about what's the town going to do? How's the town going to start changing over its vehicles when they're taking some off the list and buying some new ones?
Yep.
We should be looking at this sort of thing. Not that we have to. I mean, some vehicles can't be, right? You can't get one of the large plows that we have to be a zero emission vehicle. That's just not going to happen. They need to be diesels and they need to be big. But, your housing inspector doesn't need to drive in a big gas-eating car, probably can use a zero-emission vehicle, which is every bit as good as any other car, at least these days. They weren't years ago, but now they are. No Yugos. Promote public transit and other mobility strategies. So again, this is an audit. The availability of sidewalks, curb ramps, crosswalks, off-road bike and pedestrian paths. So a lot of these things kind of overlap, you'll see, from one section to the next. And this is some of the stuff that we already do. So we got some points here, but we have the ability, if we just do a little bit more, to get a lot more points. And we intend to stretch these out as much as we can, not take them all at the same time. So if the next time around you see we're not taking advantage of something yet, it's not because we don't know, hopefully. It's more because we're just banking our points Number 6, the efficient physical infrastructure and operations. So this is talking about towns and Board of Ed looking at what energy their buildings are using, how much water their buildings are using. Again, PBC, when we redo a school, a certain part of it, what are we doing? Are we putting in better fixtures than they had before? What's the cost-benefit analysis on putting in a slightly more expensive fixture today to save you 3 times more money over 10, 15 years? So those are things that we need to start looking at. Reducing, again, same thing, reducing energy use. It all kind of blends together there. Whoop, I can't read that. Hang on one sec. Achieve high energy performance for individual buildings. I think the library might be a LEED building. I'm not sure. That was when LEED was first coming out, is when we redid the library. I'm not sure if it is or not, but that's our best candidate for a higher performing building. But certainly this is something that can be built into the Public Building Committee activities to look for this wherever we can. We're not building completely new buildings. And in fact, they're talking about shutting down some buildings. So this might be a little difficult to hit the mark on, but we can do things, hopefully, to retrofit buildings and make them more LEED than not. Let's see, increase use of renewable energy. Again, could be as simple as putting, the panels up on the roof of the schools or wherever. Not in a mode where you're selling it back to the electric company, but in the mode that you're using it, and then when you need extra, then it comes in from the electric company.
So putting the panels over the ice rink, using the power of the sun to make ice.
That's great. That's a great use, yes. Next time.
Yeah, looks like we got a lot of points in the bank.
Yeah, you're-
Develop a municipal energy plan. Energy tracking management, this is all combined, right? It's managing what you have, looking at how you're using it, and changing what you're doing to make it better. To this, whenever I think about municipal energy plans, I always think of, we have a wastewater treatment plant. Why aren't we putting a generator on the downside of the outflow to turn a turbine and gain some electricity there? You might actually end up paying for the electricity used by the wastewater treatment plant. Not putting it in the river, because that would be a whole different problem, but putting it in the outflow before it gets to the river.
Smart.
I don't know if there's enough, so it's called head in the water, which is the energy that's stored as the water's going downhill. If there's enough head to turn a turbine, it's something I always think of that we should take a look at. But, so it's those kinds of things, develop a plan. Manage your municipal fleet, again, it's about the cars, trucks, everything. Keep them operating optimally and having better units whenever you can upgrade to that or change over. Install efficient exterior lighting, so that's one of the things that I was talking about, the LED bulbs that we're using down Hop Meadow now. We got good points for that. Implement a community energy campaign. This is where you get the residents involved and even improving the situation at their own homes and using less energy there. One of my things is encouraging people when they're building new homes to use 12-volt lighting systems. Your car headlights can light up the sky at night. There's no reason you can't use 12 volt in your home. And LEDs run off of 12 volt, so you're already talking about a huge reduction in electricity use across a home. The next biggest users are the air conditioning, furnace or boiler, refrigerator, and stove. If you can reduce all the other electric use, you'd be in a pretty good spot. So for me, encouraging 12 volt lighting is a big thing. And it's safe. You don't get fires from that. Strategic and inclusive public services. This is more outreach kind of stuff. So you hold an event, you have community communications on what the town's doing, assess the effectiveness of the communications. This is all standard stuff. Train municipal commissions. We got 5 points for that because we all went to the land use training out in Middletown. So we had enough people go that we got 5 points for that. Any other training that you do for the commissions that's related to what they're doing counts for this. So if inland wetlands goes to something that's special, that would count too. So we just need to get head counts from all the different commissions on what they're doing, what their education is.
Does this count? You're
No.
giving us, educating us?
No. Encourage healthy, sustainable food networks. Again, that goes in with the other part that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
You know, for me, this would be more like having the schools have their own garden that picks the vegetables, and then they use it during their lunchtime at some point. That kind of thing. So you get the kids involved, it's educational. You've just lowered the school's costs for food, and everybody gets a decent meal. So that's one of the things that we can bring into
I
this.
thought one of the grades, I thought Tooten Hills did something like that a few years back, had a garden, I don't, you know.
They may have, but rather than make it an experiment, there are many towns in the country that actually do this as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And they have kids that are in charge in that program, and they go out, they plant the stuff, they take care of it. They're the ones that go out, cut it, bring it in, get everything washed up, and help make the meals.
And this is something we can do in our growing cycle, because the school year does not overlap a lot with the planting and nurturing seasons.
You don't think the kids would be wanting to be involved in something like that that's productive that way?
Oh, I think,
Right, it's
anything that
not-
gets you out of the classroom, but
Once you get into the
what can you grow
wo-
like now? A good hunk of the school year, we don't have
So
gardens.
right now, you can still be growing, there are certain things that can
Okay.
still grow inside of a cold frame in the sun. You
The
gotta be-
kale and the
Some of those
hardy-
cabbage,
yeah.
some other things. In the springtime, you can start the cold frames probably in March. If you have a really good location with full sun, you can actually get enough warmth inside there
And
to
when can
start
you
growing.
harvest?
Well, it depends on what it is, right?
Okay.
So,
I mean, by June, you still don't have that much. I'm just being practical.
it depends.
I mean, I love the idea,
Your
believe me. I
your
love
lettuces
this.
start becoming available in June, July,
Yeah, that'd be
if you're
about- yeah.
planting in cold frames. Okay, so report materials management, data, reduce waste. Again, it's about managing your resources in town and how you're using things. Reducing waste helps everybody. It lowers costs to the town, and it keeps it out of landfills, and they're things that we don't have to pay to get rid of anymore, right? So if you're careful about what you're doing, you have a good program, you can have a financial impact there. Implement save money, reduce trash, same thing, smart program. Recycle and compost. I've seen the farmers composting. I haven't seen a large community compost area that I'm wondering if we couldn't do something like that up at the town garden area where people plant, but then when they're done for the season, we should be able to compost there. And then, sell it at a nominal amount to residents to take some good dirt out of there. Develop food waste reduction campaign. That'd be something you'd work with local restaurants on what to do with food at the end of the day when they're done. Does it need to be thrown away, or can some of it be donated to, whether it's a soup kitchen, a food kitchen, or something else, or a residence for elderly people that might need better food. Improve air quality. I don't understand how you improve the air quality once you've done everything we've already done, but, unless we HEPA filter the universe. Healthy, efficient, diverse housing. This is something that we might be able to get some hooks into. We have an assessment, but it fell short of what's really required for a full housing needs assessment. So I was going to look into the last published housing assessment and see if we couldn't go a little bit further the next time around and really identify what it is that we need, what it is that we can plan for, what it is that we can provide, what we cannot provide, so that we know what all the boundaries are and we can work on a real goal. Because we did have the housing data profile. We got 5 points for having that, and we don't even do that. Somebody else does it for us. So that kind of bugged me. We should be a little more ahead of the curve on that one. Excuse me. Grow sustainable and affordable housing options. Again, something we could have a hook into. And what do we, as a town, want to call affordable? Forget what the state calls affordable. What do we want to call affordable, and what do we want to help happen? Not forced to happen, because we're never going to be able to do that. But how can we steer people into providing the proper affordable housing options that people around here really need?
Yeah, really need, yeah.
Right, because, a
there is a big
$400,000
need.
house, while it might be affordable in that project, because the other ones are $1 million, it's not affordable to the local cop, teacher, fireman, that kind of thing. So we need to start thinking about that sort of thing. And if we want to have a diverse workforce around here, we have to find something that is a little bit lower priced than what we're used to. So this is a way to think about
Even for the
it.
workforce we do have, to
Right.
be able to continue to stay and live here, yeah.
So my son's a machinist and he lives at home.
Oh, I have
and
several
on his
friends who
salary as
desperately
a-
need affordable housing.
On his salary as a machinist, and I don't know how the other guys do it, but I don't see how you could live on your own. But these are things that we can consider through these programs that maybe we're not used to thinking about, and think about them in different ways. Benchmark energy and water use for multifamily housing. That's, again, it's more of the same conservation kind of thing. Inclusive and equitable community impacts. This is sort of very nebulous on purpose. So when you see equity, they're talking about really the treatment of non-white groups the same as white groups. That's what they're talking about when they talk about equity. It's not just race, it's about everything. It's just about everybody having an equitable shot. So think of it that way. There are lots of different things that fall into here. I couldn't even begin to explain them all. They did one program over at the school after I think some girls did some blackface thing and it got on Facebook or one of those. And they did a program at the school and that counted for this equitable thing here. But that was the only real thing that really applied for that kind of a thing. So we need to be thinking more about those. And then there's innovative action. This is whatever you can drum up on your own that's innovative, that's not part of all the other things that they're talking about. So I won't bore you much longer, but I'm going to have to reduce the size of this for a second. Let me. Now I can make it bigger. Okay. So where we got the points that was brownfields, right? So that wasn't applicable. We got our points in providing resources and supporting local business. We got nothing on the workforce development. 5 points in the CPACE. Again, that was somebody else who did the CPACE thing for us. So if you don't see anything in column H there, it's because we didn't get any points in that section. And again, the yellow ones are the things that we might be able to do something about later. We got 20 points on the open space, but there's more points left on the table there. We got 5 points on drought and municipal water because we had a policy. We got 5 points on the low impact development, but there's a lot of other points that we can drag out of that. Again, we didn't get anything on the woodlands. Wish I'd known about that one. We got 0 on implementing green grounds and maintenance. Map and tourism, again, we had a website and that's all we got points for, but we can do a lot better there.
Wow, 40.
Yeah, we got 2 sets of 40 points on integrating sustainability, right? Mostly for the projects that we had done through that. 5 points on agriculture-friendly practices. I'm sorry, 15. Then we got implementing complete streets again. Tom Roy had that whole list of sidewalks and curbs and everything that they were talking about. That counted for this a lot. So we got 45, 55, 75 points for this section on complete streets. And we still left a bunch of points on the table. Yeah, even this 45 could have been up to 60. Promoting effective parking management, we got 10 points for that. We could have gone up to 35, another 45, 65 points there. We didn't do anything on the zero emission vehicle deployment. We got 10 points on the mobility strategies and public transit. We tried for 10 here, but we didn't get it. Benchmarking energy use, we got 5 out of. Got 10, 20 municipal energy plan, so it's minimal. Those are our lights on Hob Meadow there. We got 15 points for. 15 on the sustainability event that we did hold. That was with the refillable water bottles, that program that's going on. Oh, that and the, what's the other program they have down at what I call the dump? It's not the dump anymore. It's
Transfer station?
Yeah, there's somebody runs a thing where you can drop off items and other people can come and grab them.
Swap shack.
The swap shop, yeah, the swap shop actually got us a few points in this. That was a big deal. 5 points in training the commissions. That's what we did up in Middletown.
I wonder if the loan locker, that's gonna start.
Yes, that will also help.
That'll
Yeah.
help. I mean, that's up and running.
Absolutely. Materials management data, reducing waste, we got 20 points out of that, out of total maybe 50. We could have got 20 on recycling and composting. And then 40 on the sustainable, affordable housing options. So 40, we got quite a bit there, but there's more points to be had. Implementing your own. I couldn't tell you what that is right now. I'll look it up if anybody asks. We needed 400 to get silver, and we ended up with about I'm thinking my number might be a little bit off. I may have an extra 10 points somewhere, but I think we got 425 points. But this was ballpark where we ended up at. We didn't expect to.
Wow.
They came back to us and asked us to do a couple extra things to get the extra points to go over the line. So they don't exactly just hammer you, they also help you along if they can.
Oh, good.
So if you guys want it, you can have a copy of this spreadsheet.
Yeah, I'm very interested in seeing the whole content.
Okay. So I'll get that to Mike and he can distribute that to everyone.
I'll upload it. I'll upload it to our packets so that it'll be available on Dropbox for the entire
Okay,
commission.
okay.
If that's okay?
Rich, when our representative, John Hampton, does, like Earth Day, he does a cleanup, would that be something that would? No?
Not really, because
Okay.
it's a single day. What they're looking for is ongoing, for lack of a better word, sustainable programs. Things
Okay.
that you do all the time, things that you incorporate into the town structure, into people's everyday lives, that they're going to continue doing that have a real effect on the environment
All right.
and the quality
So if it was
of
an
life.
annualized thing, that wouldn't count?
No, once a
Okay.
year thing, it wouldn't. But
Okay.
something more like the water bottle refill stations.
Yep.
That they worked out with some people and some free water bottles here and there. That's more of an ongoing
Okay.
thing, because people will be using that
Okay.
over and over again. That's all I got. I hope that was
Rich, very good.
informative.
Yeah,
Not
very
not
good.
boring at all.
Oh, good.
Very interesting.
It was really
Thank
interesting.
you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
It's a good reminder
did
to
a lot
know
of
all the
work.
things that are.
And I think you need to get together with Mike, because he had a lot of good ideas for the next submission.
Yeah, there's,
I will tackle him at the nearest opportunity.
Yeah,
thank you,
It's good to
Rich.
make some points.
yeah, good job.
Thank you.
Great, okay. Any other orders of business?
We're meeting once next month?
We meet next on December 10th,
Okay.
okay, and that'll be the end of the year. Actually, it's really the start
Start
of
of
the
the
new,
next
of the
one,
new
yeah.
commission.
So watch, because are you expecting any new bit, so, I mean, there's a chance we won't meet if there's no new
Listen, I
business.
mean, some things you heard tonight, if you want to, it sparks an interest to have a conversation on something else. Business-wise, unless you have, unless there's some referrals coming, the only thing really on the horizon that I know of, you will have a roadway acceptance request potentially coming for Murphy's Turn off of Hildecrest. We're waiting for as-built monumentation, legal descriptions has been shared with Bob D. for the roadway. I think the developer wants to try to get that road accepted before the snow starts falling. I don't think that he may make that. It may be in January when we really see it, but that's one thing I know that's on the horizon for this commission. So,
Okay.
Keep our eyes open.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't want to arbitrarily exercise the commission, just to come here to say hi to each other, but, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cancellations this year.
This year, that many?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite a few.
Wow,
Well,
that's the most since I've
maybe
been.
next time we find ourselves in that position, when we did this, it's now been more than a year, and we said, well, we were going to start updating it and working in advance, and then we came up with some ideas tonight. Maybe we could do a brainstorm as to what we should tackle in what order, maybe.
All right, let's do this.
Yeah.
When the spreadsheet gets uploaded to Dropbox, take a look and see if there's something like the low-hanging fruit that maybe we can start to address and do an interim update to the POCD.
it'll buy us more time till we have to do our next update.
Yeah.
Because whenever you update your POCD, that starts the clock. So even if we only update one chapter out of here because we just completed an update, it extends time further for us.
Oh, really? Now, I thought we had said regardless that we were going to do regular,
No, I know.
one of those
Right.
sections that we
Yeah,
were,
right, it said we would
We said we
consider.
would consider it.
Yeah.
makes sense.
And the other thing too, which is on the horizon, it's not a requirement yet, but there's been some scuttlebutt. This may be a requirement down the road by the legislature, similar to the POCD, is developing and implementing an affordable housing plan for the community. Several towns have done this. It's just suggested right now, but twice the Department of Housing has proposed bills through the General Assembly to mandate it and tie discretionary funding to, similar to the POCD. You got to update it once every, I think they said 5 years.
Interesting.
So that's something that maybe proactively, I know that it's a topic, I'm just thinking of things that they're tasks that are, they're long-term planning stuff, and since our plate is light on regulatory work, maybe
Yep.
this is a great time to tackle these sort of things.
And that's something a lot of us feel strongly about, and, it dovetails with things that you brought up. I mean, we could kill a few birds with one stone and do some good for our town.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, then I make a motion to adjourn.
A second?
Any discussion? All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. The meeting is adjourned at 8:07.
Really good work, Rich. I had no idea how much work you were
Yeah,
doing.
can't-
It was harrowing to
I
try
was
to
here
get
last
that done in
2
just
weeks
a
ago.
couple.